Everyone, most welcome to Camelia Tours Sri Lanka. Today we explore the mighty Sri Lankan elephant, the largest land mammal in Asia, and one of the most treasured symbols of Sri Lanka's wildlife heritage. Before we meet this magnificent giant, let's take a quick look at the beautiful island it's called home. Sri Lanka is a tropical island nation located in the Indian Ocean. It stretches approximately 434 km from north to south and 227 km from west to east, covering a land area of about 65,610 square kilometers plus 2 square kilometers with newly built port city of Colombo. Despite its relatively small size, Sri Lanka is rich in natural beauty, cultural heritage and incredible biodiversity. Population 22 million estimated in 2025. Population density is approximately 335 people per square kilometer. Capital Sri Kotte. Largest and commercial city is Colombo. Population approximately 650,000 people and a metropolitan population of over 5 million. Now let's meet the king of Sri Lanka's wilderness, the Sri Lankan elephant. The Sri Lankan elephant is the largest of the Asian elephant subspecies. Adults male can grow up to 3 meters tall and weigh more than 5,000 kilograms. These gentle giants are known for their intelligence, strong family bonds, and important role in maintaining healthy forest ecosystem. They can be found in national parks and wildlife reserves across Sri Lanka, including famous elephant habitats where visitors can observe them in their natural environment. The Sri Lankan elephant is not only a wildlife treasure but also an important part of the island's history, culture, and traditions. The Sri Lankan elephant is one of the most remarkable animals in Asia and is found nowhere else in the world. It is a subspecies of the Asian elephant scientifically known as Elephas maximus. Although Sri Lanka is a small tropical island, it supports a wild elephant population of more than 5,000 individuals, giving the country one of the highest elephant densities in Asia. Elephants can live between 55 and 65 years in the wild, while some captive elephants may live even longer with proper care. One of the most fascinating facts about elephants is that they develop 6 sets of molar teeth during their lifetime. As each set wears out, a new set moves forward. When the final set is completely worn away, the elephant can no longer chew food efficiently, which often contributes to its death in old age. Elephants live in family groups led by an experienced female known as the matriarch. This herd consists mainly of females and their young. As male elephants mature, they leave the family herd and either live alone or join small bachelor groups. This natural behavior helps maintain healthy genetic diversity within elephant populations. Female elephants have the longest pregnancy of any land mammals, carrying their calves for approximately 22 months. A mother usually gives birth to a single calf every 4 to 6 years, and young elephants may continue drinking milk for after 5 years while gradually learning to feed on vegetation. Despite their enormous size, elephants have relatively poor eyesight. Instead, they rely on their exceptional sense of smell, hearing, and touch. They communicate using powerful low-frequency sound known as infrasound, which can travel several kilometers across forests and grassland. Elephants also enjoy bathing and mud wallowing, which help cool their bodies, protect their skin, and remove parasites. One of the Sri Lanka's greatest wildlife spectacles is the famous elephant gathering at Mineria National Park, where hundreds of elephants can be seen together during the dry seasons, especially from August to September. This extraordinary event highlights the importance of conserving Sri Lanka's elephant and ensuring that future generations can continue to witness these magnificent giants in the wild. The Sri Lankan elephant is more than just a wild animal, it is a symbol of our island's natural heritage. Protecting these magnificent giants and learning to coexist with them is our responsibility. Thank you for watching Camelia Tours Sri Lanka. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more amazing stories about Sri Lanka's wildlife, culture and hidden treasures. Thank you very much and see you in next session.